What if the expensive gut-friendly foods you buy at the supermarket are actually dead? Why does a $10 jar of pickles on the shelf offer zero digestive support, while a homemade jar of cabbage costing pennies contains billions of living microbes? Are you paying for convenience, or are you paying for absolute sterility? Let us explore 20 living fermented foods your body is begging for. Hit subscribe and join me as we decode the biological truth hiding right inside your own kitchen. Imagine a simple glass jar bubbling lightly on your kitchen counter. Sunlight shines through the slightly cloudy liquid inside. Now, place that image in your mind next to a quiet, sterile, plastic bottle sitting on a store shelf. What is the actual physical difference between the two objects? The science of traditional fermentation is basically the science of managing living ecosystems. It is a completely natural biological process that has accompanied human beings for thousands of years. When you buy a standard jar of pickles from a conventional grocery store, industrial high heat has almost certainly been used to process it. That extreme heat makes the jar shelf stable so it can sit in a warehouse for years without changing. But that same heat physically wipes out every single living organism inside. It becomes a completely quiet, static environment. Traditional fermentation, however, relies entirely on active, living lactic acid bacteria. We are talking about millions of living microbes functioning within every single bite of food. Because of modern refrigeration and the convenience of supermarkets, society stopped relying on these microscopic helpers to preserve our meals. And logically, our digestive systems lost a massive daily supply of these biological allies. How do we bring that natural rhythm back into our homes safely, practically, and at almost zero cost? Let us count down these traditional foods one by one. We will look at exactly how they provide real mechanical support for your body, starting from the everyday staples and moving toward the most powerful ecosystems you can cultivate. Starting our journey at number 20, we have traditional buttermilk. Think back to the smooth, slightly tart taste of real cultured buttermilk. It feels entirely different from regular milk when it hits your tongue, carrying a pleasant thickness that coats the glass. Have you ever wondered why a glass of fresh milk left on the counter spoils so rapidly, while cultured buttermilk can sit safely for days? This mechanism relies on the basic physics of an acidic environment. It is a fascinating biological boundary. Imagine a glass of fresh milk as a beautiful, welcoming house with its front door left wide open. Any random microbe floating in the air can wander in and cause the environment to break down and spoil. But when specific lactic acid bacteria are introduced to the milk, they begin to consume the natural lactose sugars present in the liquid. As they eat these sugars, they naturally produce lactic acid as a byproduct. This acid acts like a massive biological lock on that open door. It drops the acidic level of the milk so low that harmful elements simply cannot survive or take root. This is a very simple, elegant interaction. It is crucial to note that this biological lock is entirely absent in commercial buttermilk. Store brands are often just regular milk mixed with white vinegar to mimic the sour taste, meaning there is no living ecosystem inside. True cultured buttermilk provides a dense, living environment. This naturally supports your body in moving food along much more smoothly through your digestive tract. If you have ever thought about making this at home, it requires almost zero effort. You just need a cup of high quality whole milk and a small amount of a live starter culture. You stir them together, leave the mixture in a warm spot in your kitchen for about 12 to 24 hours, and let nature do the rest of the work. Once it thickens, you move it to the refrigerator. It easily replaces expensive store-bought drinks and provides a liquid biological shield for your daily routine. Moving forward to number 19, we look at fermented lemons. We often throw away the thick, bitter rinds of citrus fruits without a second thought, considering them to be useless waste. But when lemons are properly fermented, that rigid peel becomes incredibly soft. It releases an unusually deep and fragrant aroma that completely transforms the fruit. Why does a simple soaking process completely break down the physical structure of something so notoriously tough? When you pack fresh lemons with coarse sea salt, the salt creates immediate osmotic pressure. This is a powerful physical force that draws water out from inside the deep cellular structures of the lemon. It creates a salty, submerged environment inside the jar. Only highly resilient, salt-loving bacteria can survive in this newly formed liquid. These bacteria work exactly like microscopic miners. Over a period of several weeks, They slowly and methodically dismantle the sturdy plant cell walls of the rind. As they break down these walls, they release natural essential oils that were previously trapped. They soften the mechanical texture of the peel until it is entirely edible. This is a very steady, quiet transformation that happens entirely on its own. When you use fermented lemons in your cooking, you are directly eating that transformed peel. Your body can now easily absorb compounds that your own digestive tract would have struggled to break apart. It provides an excellent source of accessible nutrition compared to tossing the peel in the trash. It is a fantastic way to utilize the whole fruit for free with zero waste. To make them, you simply quarter organic lemons, pack them tightly into a glass jar with plenty of natural salt, press them down firmly until their own juices rise up and cover them completely. Leave the jar on your counter for about a month, pressing down occasionally to keep everything submerged. It is a zero-cost way to keep a vibrant, highly useful ingredient on hand all year round. This concept of breaking down rigid walls brings us to number 18, fermented carrots and ginger. When you chew on a properly fermented carrot stick, you will notice a distinct, satisfying crispness. It is usually followed by a very subtle, refreshing fizz on the back of your tongue. Why does eating a fermented carrot offer your body more accessible nutrition than simply chewing on a raw one? The human body actually has a surprisingly difficult time extracting every bit of nutrition locked deep inside raw vegetables. Your stomach is strong, but plant cellulose is an incredibly stubborn material. When wild bacteria convert the natural sugars in the carrots into lactic acid, this new environment acts as a gentle, natural solvent. It slowly loosens those tough, fibrous cell walls. It is a simple mechanical release that does the heavy lifting for you. Compounds like beta carotene become much more accessible to your system. Think of it like a crew coming in to dismantle roadblocks on a major highway. The nutrients now have a clear, straight path into your bloodstream without any obstruction. By enjoying these fermented vegetables, you are giving your body the ability to actually use what is already there rather than letting it pass through undigested. Adding a few slices of fresh ginger to the jar provides a wonderful, warming flavor. Ginger itself is traditionally used to naturally soothe the stomach and support overall digestion. To grow this simple habit at home, just slice your carrots into sticks, add some ginger, and submerge them in a basic salt water mixture. Keep the jar out of direct sunlight for a week or two until they reach your preferred taste. This is a beautiful, free way to replace standard, highly processed store-bought snacks with something that actively supports your wellness. If you enjoy that subtle fizz but want something you can pour directly into a glass, we arrive at number 17, water kefir. Many of us naturally crave a cold, carbonated drink in the afternoon for a quick pick-me-up. Water kefir is a lightly sparkling beverage that feels just like a soda in your mouth. However, it leaves you feeling light and refreshed rather than heavy and bloated. But if there is no milk involved in this process, where do these bacteria get the fuel they need to multiply and create those bubbles? The answer is simple: sugar and fruit. Water kefir grains are not actual grains of wheat or barley. They are beautiful, translucent little structures made of a symbiotic matrix of beneficial yeast and bacteria. When you drop these small grains into a jar of sugar water, they use that sugar as their primary fuel source. As they consume the sugar, they release natural carbon dioxide gas. This is a basic metabolic function that happens continuously. This process transforms a simple jar of sweet water into a rich, living liquid full of organic life. An industrial soda simply floods your system with empty sugars that your body has to work very hard to manage. Water kefir uses up most of that sugar before you even take a sip. It acts as a highly refreshing alternative that provides natural support for your digestive flow. Making it is as simple as dissolving some raw sugar in water, adding the grains, and waiting 2 days. Once you have acquired the grains, this drink costs almost nothing to maintain indefinitely. It replaces expensive, artificially flavored drinks with absolutely zero effort on your part. The transformative power of these microbes completely changes how we experience bold flavors as well. This brings us to number 16, fermented whole grain mustard. When you taste a spoonful of raw fermented mustard, it delivers a sharp, familiar heat that wakes up your senses, but it finishes with an incredibly smooth, balanced tang that does not linger uncomfortably. What is actually happening at a chemical level when you crush tiny mustard seeds and leave them to ferment in a jar? Inside every single mustard seed is a dormant enzyme called myrosinase. As long as the seed remains dry and intact, it stays completely quiet and inactive. But the moment you crush the seed and add a liquid, this enzyme wakes up immediately. It reacts with other compounds present in the seed to create a highly volatile gas. This specific gas is exactly what gives mustard its famous sinus clearing punch. The fermentation process naturally controls and extends this physical reaction. It is a brilliant natural balancing act. The lactic acid produced by the bacteria acts to stabilize the heat of the mustard. It ensures the condiment does not lose its punch over time the way a standard commercially made vinegar mix might. The sharp sensation you feel is a real physical response that can naturally help clear your airways and awaken your palate. Instead of buying commercial condiments loaded with artificial preservatives and thickeners, making your own is nearly free. It requires only mustard seeds, water, a little salt, and time. It provides a robust flavor that gently supports your stomach when processing heavier, richer meals. Our journey through biological transformation takes us to a traditional staple at number 15, tempeh. Tempeh is a dense, firm block of soybeans bound tightly together by a delicate, white fungal web. It carries a deeply savory, nutty flavor that is incredibly satisfying. Many people understandably feel hesitant about eating something deliberately cultured with a visible fungus, but how does this specific mold actually make a solid block of beans much easier for a human to digest? Raw soybeans contain highly complex protein structures and natural defensive compounds. These natural elements can be quite heavy and demanding on our human digestive systems. When the tempeh spores are introduced to cooked, cooled beans, they begin to grow into a dense network of fine fibers. This network functions exactly like an external digestive system working outside of your body. As the fungus grows and spreads, it releases gentle enzymes into the beans. These enzymes carefully snip those long, complicated protein chains into much smaller, simple amino acids. This is a direct physical breakdown of tough material. Think of it as having a microscopic prep cook who meticulously chops up your meal at a molecular level before you even take a bite. When you eat tempeh, your stomach does not have to expend massive amounts of energy trying to dismantle the food. The hardest work has already been done for you by the fungus. You are consuming a highly accessible source of plant protein that is incredibly gentle on your system. It usually provides a substantial amount of protein per serving, comparable to many commercial meats. You can easily find organic tempeh at most local markets today. It serves as a wonderful zero effort replacement for heavy store-bought meats a few times a week. At this point, you might be noticing a fascinating underlying pattern. It is easy to assume that all fermented foods are just things that happen to taste sour, but these are active, continuous ecosystems that do much more than flavor our meals. They do not just preserve food for the winter, they fundamentally alter the physical structure of the food to our advantage. Our next item shows exactly how deep this flavor and structural transformation can go. Number 14 is traditional tamari. Unlike the highly processed, watery soy sauce you might find in little plastic packets, true tamari has a profoundly deep, rich saltiness. There is no harsh chemical bite at all. Just a few drops can completely elevate a simple bowl of plain rice. Why is the flavor of tamari so incredibly complex compared to mass-produced soy sauce? The physical detail that is almost always overlooked here is the element of quiet, uninterrupted time. Industrial soy sauce is often manufactured in a matter of days in large factories. These factories use strong chemical acids to forcefully and quickly break apart the soybeans. Traditional tamari, on the other hand, sits quietly in large cedar barrels for many months, sometimes years. During this long resting period, natural microorganisms slowly disassemble the physical structure of the soybeans. They convert the raw proteins into an array of rich, savory compounds that our tongues recognize as deep flavor. This is a very slow, highly stable process. This gentle, natural hydrolysis preserves delicate enzymes that are highly beneficial to us. The fast chemical process completely destroys these natural elements in the pursuit of speed. True tamari is essentially a liquid botanical extract of time itself. When you use it, you are adding a complex layer of flavor that naturally complements your daily cooking. It proves that we can replace artificially colored liquid seasonings with a genuinely crafted food that offers real utility. This conversation about the difference between slow time and fast chemicals leads us naturally to number 13, traditional pickled cucumbers. Let us look closely at a very familiar image in most kitchens, A properly fermented cucumber does not have the harsh, stinging smell of white vinegar. The water it sits in is almost always slightly cloudy rather than perfectly clear. Let us ask a very logical, straightforward question. Why is a standard jar of pickles from the center aisle of the supermarket almost completely useless for your gut? The difference comes down to the physics of embalming versus the physics of a living environment. Commercial white vinegar creates an immediate, harsh, acidic environment. The second it is introduced, it is usually poured over the vegetables while piping hot. This instantly stops all biological activity and locks the cucumber in a permanent static state. It is, for all practical purposes, embalming the food to preserve its appearance. On the other hand, natural saltwater fermentation is about creating a thriving, active habitat. You submerge the fresh cucumbers in cool salt water. Wild lactic acid bacteria slowly begin to multiply in the liquid. This is a natural, steady population growth. The cloudiness you see in the water is the visual proof of this action. Billions of bacteria are actively living, breathing, and working in that jar. When you eat a traditional salt brine pickle, you are directly delivering a massive amount of these living helpers to your stomach. If you want to make these yourself, just pack fresh cucumbers tightly in a jar with dill and garlic. Cover them in a simple saltwater brine and leave them on the counter for a week. It requires almost zero effort and costs pennies. Always check the labels if you buy them at the store. If vinegar is the primary liquid listed, the life in that jar has been halted completely. From crisp cucumbers, we move to a powerful, natural combination at number 12, fermented garlic and raw honey. When you look at a jar of this mixture, you will see whole garlic cloves slowly sinking into a thinned out pool of golden honey. Tiny bubbles constantly rise to the surface, showing that something is happening. Why do two ingredients that are normally so stable suddenly begin to bubble and react when they are combined? Pure, raw honey naturally contains wild yeast from the environment. However, its moisture content is so incredibly low that the yeast stays completely dormant. It is essentially fast asleep. Fresh garlic, meanwhile, holds a significant amount of natural water within its cloves. When you submerge the garlic cloves in the honey, the physical process of osmosis pulls that water out of the garlic. This is a basic movement of fluid-seeking balance. This added water slightly thins the honey, raising the overall moisture level just enough to wake up the dormant yeast and bacteria. The resulting fermentation acts as a brilliant biological preservation engine. It stabilizes a highly fragile compound found in garlic called allicin. Allicin usually breaks down very quickly when exposed to the open air. The slow fermentation gently tempers the harsh, spicy bite of the raw garlic over time. It makes it much easier and far more pleasant on your stomach. It is vital to remember a strict safety rule regarding this preparation. Never give raw honey products to infants under 1 year old due to the natural risk of botulism spores, as their systems cannot handle it. For adults, however, taking a spoonful provides a comforting, warming support during cold weather. It is incredibly easy to make. Just peel your garlic, cover it completely in raw honey, and loosely place a lid on top. Let it bubble away quietly in a dark cupboard for a month. It is a completely free way to build a highly useful pantry. Number 11 brings us to a deeply colored, earthy beverage known as beet kvass. If garlic and honey offer a soothing warmth, this dark red liquid offers direct mechanical support to your body's internal flow. It has a grounded, slightly salty and sour taste that is quite unique. Why does drinking this simple, rustic liquid often make you feel a subtle rush of physical warmth? Beets naturally contain a remarkably high concentration of dietary nitrates. When you drink beet kvass, the beneficial bacteria present in your mouth and stomach help convert these nitrates into a compound called nitric oxide. Imagine your blood vessels as a complex network of busy roads. Nitric oxide acts as a clear physical signal to your body. It commands the walls of those blood vessels to relax and open up wider. It is exactly like opening up an extra lane on a crowded, congested highway. The blood can suddenly flow much more smoothly with far less physical resistance from the vessel walls. The fermentation process makes these nitrates much easier for your body to access than if you simply ate a cooked beet. This is a very clear, measurable change in how your body operates. This drink provides a natural, calming support for your daily circulation. A quick note of caution is necessary, however. Beets do contain naturally occurring oxalates. If you are someone who is prone to kidney stones or gout, you should limit your intake. Always consult your physician before making it a daily habit. Making it is completely free of stress and very inexpensive. Chop organic beets, put them in a jar with salt water, and let it sit for a week. It easily replaces expensive, highly processed energy drinks with a natural alternative. A smooth internal flow requires a calm and well supported digestive foundation to work properly. This brings us to number 10, traditional full fat yogurt. Picture a bowl of thick, plain yogurt, completely unmixed with sugary fruit jams or artificial colors. It features a naturally occurring layer of rich, yellowish fat resting on the top. Why is it that heavily processed, fat free yogurt does not provide the same level of digestive protection as the traditional version? Studies into our human digestive mechanics reveal that the physical structure of that natural dairy fat is incredibly important. The environment of your human stomach is basically a vat of highly concentrated, powerful acid. When delicate bacteria travel through this harsh space, they are extremely vulnerable to being destroyed before they reach their destination. However, the natural fat molecules found in whole milk act exactly like an armored transport vehicle. They physically coat and protect the living bacteria from the surrounding environment. This is a physical barrier of protection that cannot be replicated by synthetics. It shields them from the severe acid and allows them safe passage deeper into your digestive tract where they are needed. When food companies strip the fat away to make diet products, they completely remove this essential biological armor. To make up for the loss of flavor, they usually pump the yogurt full of refined sugar. The bacteria inside become weak and entirely exposed to the acid. Choosing plain, full fat yogurt provides your body with a fully protected delivery system for these helpers. It requires zero effort to simply choose the whole fat option the next time you are at the store. It offers your body exactly what it needs to maintain a calm, settled stomach. You are likely starting to see the deeper, more elegant mechanism at play here. Supporting your body is not about forcing it to work harder with highly concentrated, isolated supplements. It is about choosing whole foods that naturally reduce the mechanical workload on your organs. Number 9 is fermented hot sauce. Think about the physical sensation of eating a raw, spicy chili pepper. You might immediately break a sweat. Your mouth burns. And sometimes your stomach feels tight and uncomfortable afterward. So why does a properly fermented hot sauce deliver that same wonderful heat, but with a much gentler impact on your stomach? The secret lies in the interaction between the heat compound called capsaicin and the living lactic acid bacteria. As the chopped peppers ferment in a jar, the bacteria multiply rapidly. This process fundamentally shifts the chemical profile of the sauce. When this fermented mixture travels through your digestive system, it creates an environment that naturally supports your body's ability to produce butyrate. Butyrate is a specific type of short chain fatty acid. It acts almost exactly like a soothing physical primer coat on a wall. It gently coats the lining of your intestines, providing a protective layer. This is a very natural buffering effect that calms the system. It helps to maintain a calm and stable environment even when processing spicy compounds. You still get to enjoy the vibrant, sharp heat of the peppers on your tongue, but the aggressive physical impact on your stomach lining is naturally softened and managed. It is a perfect example of using biology to balance intensity. You can easily make this by blending fresh peppers with salt and letting them sit in a jar for a couple of weeks. It completely replaces store-bought hot sauces that rely on harsh vinegar and artificial dyes. This brilliant concept of biological buffering is the exact same mechanism behind one of humanity's oldest foods. We arrive at number 8, sourdough bread. A proper loaf of sourdough has a thick, crusty exterior and a dense, chewy interior. It carries a deeply satisfying, slightly sour tang that is unmistakable. You can often eat a thick slice of sourdough without experiencing the heavy, bloated feeling that comes from eating standard. Commercial sandwich bread. Why is it that so many people who struggle with commercial bread can comfortably enjoy sourdough? The physical structure of wheat is built upon a complex network of gluten. Gluten is a highly complex protein that provides elasticity to the dough. It acts very much like a dense, tangled knot of thick rubber bands. It can be quite tough for the human stomach to unravel on its own. But when a baker uses a slow, traditional fermentation process, wild yeast and bacteria begin their work long before baking. They usually let the dough sit for 12 to 24 hours in a cool place. During this time, they release natural enzymes that act like microscopic scissors. These enzymes slowly and meticulously snip away at those complex gluten bonds. This is essentially a highly efficient pre-digestion crew. They dismantle the tough rubber bands before the bread is even placed into the oven. By the time you eat the baked slice of sourdough, your stomach only has to do a fraction of the work it normally would. It is a simple reduction in labor for your body. It provides you with a way to enjoy wholesome grains without forcing your body to struggle through a heavy digestive process. You do not always have to give up bread entirely. You just need to choose a bread that has been biologically prepared for you in advance. This slow, methodical breakdown of complex proteins also brings us a unique structural benefit. Number 7 is raw aged cheese. When you bite into a piece of high quality, long aged hard cheese, you will often feel tiny, crunchy crystals breaking apart on your teeth. How does a soft liquid vat of milk eventually transform into a solid block containing these delicate, distinct crystals? When raw, unpasteurized milk is carefully crafted into cheese, it is allowed to rest in a cool cave or cellar for a long time. Over months or even years, the moisture slowly evaporates from the block, but more importantly, the bacteria inside remain fully active and engaged. They work constantly to synthesize a substantial amount of natural vitamin K2. Inside the human body, calcium can sometimes lose its way. It wanders into the bloodstream and can slowly harden the walls of your arteries over time. Vitamin K2 acts precisely like a biological traffic cop standing at a busy intersection. It physically binds to the wandering calcium. It directs it exactly where it needs to go, which is into the solid structure of your bones and teeth. This is a precise molecular transport system functioning quietly in the background. When you enjoy a slice of real aged cheese, you are providing your body with a natural traffic director for your minerals. Please be aware of an important safety note regarding this process. Because these foods are naturally high in vitamin K, they can interact with certain prescription medications. If you are currently taking prescription blood thinning medications, always consult your doctor before making major shifts in your daily diet. For most people, a small wedge of real aged cheese is a delicious, zero effort way to support your body's structural framework without buying expensive pills. If traditional cheese uses the slow passage of time to build traffic directors, traditional Eastern cooking has a similar ancient method. Number 6 is long aged miso. A warm bowl of miso soup has a deep, cloudy brown color and a profoundly relaxing aroma. Why is it that eating large amounts of raw soybeans can cause digestive distress, while a soup made from fermented soybeans provides such an easily absorbed source of nutrition? The entire process hinges on a specific cultivated mold known as koji. In their natural state, soybeans possess a strong, natural protective barrier called phytic acid. This acid tightly binds up essential minerals like zinc and iron within the bean. It locks them away securely so your body cannot absorb them during digestion. When the koji is introduced and allowed to ferment the beans over many months, it acts like a master locksmith. It physically breaks open that phytic acid barrier piece by piece. This is a targeted chemical release orchestrated by nature. It releases the trapped minerals and makes them fully available for your bloodstream to absorb and utilize. There is a very strict rule of thermodynamics to remember when using miso at home. High heat is the absolute enemy of living enzymes. If you drop miso paste directly into a pot of rapidly boiling water, you will instantly halt the entire living ecosystem. The proper traditional method is to boil your water and turn off the heat completely. Wait a moment for the water to calm down, and only then gently stir in the miso paste. This small act of patience preserves the biological integrity of the soup. It turns it into a soothing, enzyme rich support system that costs almost nothing per serving. If the elegant mechanisms we just explored have captured your curiosity, the final 5 foods on our list are the true heavyweights. Coming in at number 5, we have apple cider vinegar containing the mother. If you look closely at the bottom of a high quality bottle, you will see a cloudy, slightly messy layer of sediment floating quietly. Why is it that simply mixing a single spoonful of this cloudy liquid into a glass of water before a meal can help your body handle a plate of pasta more efficiently? When you eat complex carbohydrates, your body immediately releases an enzyme called amylase. Amylase breaks those complex starches down into simple sugars, rushing them swiftly into your bloodstream. The acetic acid found in natural vinegar directly interacts with this physical process. It temporarily binds to the amylase enzymes and physically slows them down. This is a very gentle, natural chemical delay. Instead of the sugar rushing into your blood like a sudden flash flood, it is released slowly and steadily over time. It is much like water dripping from a tightly controlled faucet rather than an open hose. This provides your body with an entirely natural tool to maintain a steady, calm energy level after a heavy meal. You do not need expensive synthetic starch blocking pills to achieve this balance. A simple bottle of vinegar provides this mechanical control effortlessly. A practical safety tip is to always dilute your vinegar in a tall glass of water before drinking it. The concentrated acid can be tough on your tooth enamel if consumed straight over a long period of time. The idea of gentle control leads us smoothly into the concept of internal clearing and maintenance. This brings us to number 4, traditional kombucha. When you brew kombucha, a thick, rubbery layer called a SCOBY forms on top of the tea. The liquid below becomes highly effervescent and lively. How exactly does this popular, tangy drink support the body's natural clearing processes? During the fermentation cycle, the yeast and bacteria consume the sugar provided in the tea. As they do this, they produce a specific compound called glucuronic acid. Inside the human body, this acid does not act like a harsh, aggressive detergent. Instead, it behaves much more like a gentle biological lubricant. It naturally binds to normal metabolic byproducts floating in your system. It helps them remain soluble so they can pass through your natural digestive flow with much less friction. This is a straightforward, highly beneficial physical binding process. Think of it like adding a few drops of high quality oil to a set of gears that have become slightly sluggish over time. Kombucha provides a rhythmic, supportive momentum to your digestion without forcing anything to happen unnaturally fast. If you source a SCOBY from a friend or neighbor, brewing this at home requires only basic tea and ordinary sugar. It is a fascinating, incredibly low cost alternative to commercial sodas. It offers a crisp flavor that actually serves a mechanical purpose in your body, rather than just delivering empty calories. While kombucha gently supports the flow, our next ecosystem focuses on deep structural reinforcement. Number 3 is traditional milk kefir. At first glance, kefir looks like a slightly thinner, bubbly version of yogurt. But when you drink it, it leaves your stomach feeling profoundly settled and calm. Why does traditional kefir completely overshadow standard commercial yogurt when it comes to comprehensive gut support? The answer lies in the sheer architectural complexity of the culture itself. A standard tub of factory yogurt might contain 2 or 3 strains of isolated bacteria. They act like a small, highly specialized work crew. Kefir, however, is grown from gelatinous grains that house a massive, intricate network of life. They contain dozens of different strains of bacteria and beneficial yeasts living together. When you drink kefir, these microbes do not just quietly pass through your digestive tract and disappear into the void. They actually have the structural ability to temporarily colonize and reinforce the walls of your gut. This is a temporary, highly effective biological reinforcement. Imagine planting a highly diverse, resilient rainforest instead of just laying down a single fragile patch of grass. Kefir provides a broad spectrum biological station. It automatically steps in to help fill the microscopic gaps left behind by modern, highly processed diets, making it as easy as dropping the grains into a jar of milk and leaving it on the counter for 24 hours. It is an incredibly powerful, self-sustaining routine that literally grows on its own while you sleep. This concept of building a resilient, self-sustaining environment brings us to the mastery of traditional preservation. Number 2 is authentic kimchi. Kimchi combines the sharp, pungent bite of garlic, the deep heat of chili flakes, and the crisp, watery crunch of Napa cabbage. How does this everyday humble side dish provide more comprehensive support than an expensive, laboratory-made capsule? The genius of kimchi lies in its brilliant biological survival strategy. It does not just deliver a random dose of living bacteria to your stomach and hope for the best. The specific ingredients used in traditional kimchi, particularly the garlic, leeks, and onions, act as a massive supply of prebiotic fiber. Prebiotics are exactly what probiotics need to eat to survive. When you consume kimchi, You are not just dropping vulnerable bacteria into the harsh, acidic environment of your stomach, you are sending them in with their own packed lunches. This is a complete, beautifully designed closed loop system. This self contained system ensures that the microbes have the fuel they need right from the start. They remain active and robust as they travel safely through your digestive tract. It is a brilliant, complete ecosystem delivered in a single bite. By choosing kimchi, you are utilizing a natural mechanism that guarantees the bacteria arrive ready to work. You completely bypass the need for expensive, isolated supplements that often lack this built in support system. Finally, we arrive at the absolute foundation of all fermentation. Number one is natural, raw sauerkraut. It is quite literally just shredded cabbage submerged in its own natural juices with a little bit of salt. Why does an ingredient this cheap, made with virtually zero effort, claim the highest spot on our list? The answer is the profound elegance of simple, undeniable physics. You do not need to apply any heat. You do not need to add a specialized starter culture. The process relies entirely on what is already naturally there. When you massage salt into the shredded cabbage, the physical pressure draws the cellular water out of the leaves. This effortlessly creates a natural brine. The lactic acid bacteria that already live on the surface of the cabbage simply wake up. They begin to multiply rapidly in the newly formed salt water. This is the most basic, fundamental form of biological growth. From just a small serving of raw, homemade sauerkraut, your body receives a massive, dense population of living bacteria alongside naturally preserved vitamins. It operates on the purest biological principles of breakdown and preservation without ever destroying the life within it. There is one strict, uncompromising rule here. If you want to succeed, if you want to receive these biological benefits, you must never cook or heat your sauerkraut. If you buy it in a can or a pasteurized jar from the middle of the store, the heat has completely halted everything. The most affordable, basic food on earth is also the most potent source of biological support. It proves that true wellness rarely comes from complicated, expensive products, but rather from understanding nature. If we step back and look at the larger picture, the fundamental rules of biology become very clear to us. The modern food industry constantly tries to create products that will sit quietly on a shelf forever without changing, but the ultimate cost of that convenience is that the living ecosystems inside our own bodies are missing out on vital daily support. The quality of the food we choose is not just a matter of personal taste or texture, it is the physical language our body uses to communicate with nature on a daily basis. When we choose to bring living, free, and zero effort fermented foods back into our daily routine, we are actively restoring that important dialogue. Remember that any shift in your dietary habits should always be done slowly and carefully. If you are foraging for wild ingredients to add to your ferments, never eat any plant unless you are 100% certain of its exact identity. Always avoid harvesting near busy roadsides or industrial areas where pollution or heavy pesticides may be present. If you have any clinical conditions or are taking medications like blood thinners, always consult your physician before making significant changes to your diet. Start with just a single spoonful a day and allow your body the time it needs to comfortably adjust to this new, vibrant routine. If you found these scientific insights helpful and practical for your daily life, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Right now, do you have any jars of fermented foods quietly bubbling away in your kitchen? Let us know. This content is for entertainment and educational purposes only and does not replace professional medical advice. We will see you in our next exploration.